Today, we're diving into the story of one of the greatest scientific triumphs in history, the Salk polio vaccine. Now, this isn't just a story about medicine. It's a story about fear, about a brilliant scientific mission and a breakthrough that didn't just beat a single disease. It totally changed the way we fight all of them. So, here's how we're going to break it all down. First, we'll look at the absolute terror of polio. Then, we'll meet the scientist on a mission to stop it. We'll get into the elegant science behind how the vaccine actually works, witness the largest public health experiment in history, and finally, explore the vaccine's absolutely incredible legacy. All right, first things first. To really get a sense of the victory, you have to understand the enemy. Before the 1950s, polio cast this terrifying shadow over the entire world, and for parents, it was a living nightmare. It's almost hard to imagine today, but for decades, if you asked Americans what they feared most, the answer wasn't war. It wasn't even the atomic bomb. It was polio. It showed up every single summer, kind of like a plague, shutting down swimming pools, movie theaters. Basically, public life just stopped. So what exactly was this thing that caused so much panic? Well, polio is an infectious disease caused by a virus that gets into the nervous system. For way too many people, it led to paralysis, confining children and adults to these massive iron lungs just so they could breathe. It was this terrifying, very visible disease that had absolutely no cure. And the scale of it was just staggering. At its absolute worst, in the United States alone, there were nearly 58,000 cases in a single year. Now, that's not just some number. That represents tens of thousands of families thrown into crisis, facing paralysis or even death, year after year. The world was desperate for a hero. And all of that desperation, well, it set the stage for a truly monumental scientific mission, led by one very determined researcher who was ready to take on this public enemy. And this is where Jonas Salk enters the picture. He wasn't some lone genius working in a dusty lab. He was the leader of a huge, publicly funded effort to find an answer. He took all the pressure and fear of a nation and channeled it into one of the most focused scientific quests of the 20th century. You know, his motivation is just perfectly captured by his own words. When a reporter asked him who owned the patent to the vaccine, Salk's famous answer was, "There is no patent. Could you patent the sun?" His goal was never about getting rich. It was about giving this gift to the world, to stop the suffering. So, how did he actually do it? Well, the science behind Salk's approach was both unbelievably elegant and revolutionary. And it all boiled down to one simple yet incredibly powerful idea. See, the key to his whole breakthrough was using what's called an inactivated vaccine. So instead of using a live weakened virus, which, had some risks, he took the polio virus and literally killed it with formaldehyde. This dead virus couldn't make you sick, but it could still teach your body's immune system how to recognize and fight the real thing. It's really a beautiful three-step process. So first, you introduce the dead virus into the body. Then your immune system sees this harmless imposter and goes, "Hey, I should make some defenses," and it starts building up antibodies. And then, step 3, if the real poliovirus ever shows up, your body is already fully armed and ready to obliterate it. Okay, so Salk has this promising vaccine. But now comes the really hard part. He had to prove it worked. And to do that, he had to launch a test on a scale that had never, ever been tried before in all of human history. Just look at that number for a second. In 1954, 1.8 million kids, who became known as the polio pioneers, took part in this massive field trial. It was a logistical marvel, and honestly, an incredible act of public trust, with parents everywhere volunteering their children to be part of history. And the results? They were just crystal clear. This chart shows you everything you need to know. The group of kids who got a placebo, basically a harmless saltwater shot, had a much higher rate of polio infection, and the group that got Salk's vaccine, way, way lower. The data was just undeniable. And then came the moment the world had been holding its breath for. On April 12th, 1955, the official announcement was made. People literally celebrated in the streets. Church bells were ringing. The vaccine worked. It was safe. It was powerful. And it was effective. But this story doesn't just stop there. Not by a long shot. This one achievement sent ripples through the worlds of public health and science that we are still feeling today. I mean, the impact was immediate and unbelievably dramatic. Just look at this timeline. Within only 5 years of the vaccine being rolled out, polio cases dropped by 90%.
And by 1979, the United States saw its very last case of naturally occurring wild polio. The shadow was finally gone.
But its legacy is so much bigger than just polio. The Salk trial proved that these huge, large-scale clinical trials were actually possible. It set the gold standard we still follow. It also created the model for modern disease surveillance. You know, the systems that track the flu or even global pandemics, they are direct descendants of this effort. It literally wrote the playbook for every disease eradication campaign that came after. So at the end of the day, the Salk vaccine was so much more than just a shot in the arm. It was a fundamental turning point. It proved what humanity is capable of when science, public trust, and a common goal all come together to fight a common enemy. And that really leaves us with a powerful question for our own time, doesn't it? When you look at the challenges we face today, from chronic diseases to the threat of future pandemics, what global health crisis out there is just waiting for its own Salk revolution? Hey, if you found this explainer as fascinating as we did, please take a second to subscribe so you don't miss our next deep dive. And if you'd rather listen on the go, the audio version of this is available on most podcast platforms. It's perfect for learning on the move. You can find that link right in the description. We make this show for you, so we genuinely want to hear your ideas. What complex topics should we break down next? Let us know in the comments below. Thanks for joining us.